Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first Cabinet Committee of the new civic year and a new administration. I'm going to go through a few housekeeping notes to start with, and then we'll proceed with the meeting. Firstly, actions in the event of an emergency. There are no practice alarms planned for this evening, but if an alarm sounds, please evacuate the town hall by going down the main staircase or the back staircase to the High Street and then to the car park behind the town hall in St Runbold Street. This meeting is being broadcast live over the internet on the Council's YouTube channel and will also be available to listen to afterwards. I want to inform all that all of us present in the room are adhering to the latest government guidance on COVID-19. I can assure those watching that the meeting room is set up to meet social distancing requirements. Whilst we are not wearing masks while seated, these will be worn if and when we leave our seats. A COVID risk assessment has been undertaken for this meeting. The use of mobile phones and other devices, including cameras, by visitors is welcomed, but you're requested to use them discreetly, to set them to silent, and to not use the voice or camera flash functions. Speakers are reminded that microphones are to be used at all times. I also just want to talk briefly about the work of the Cabinet. And before I ask members of the Cabinet to introduce themselves, for the benefit of members of the public, I would like to explain that the Cabinet is the main executive body of the Council. It is responsible for day-to-day decision-making of all Council services and also makes recommendations to full Council on major policy issues and on the Council's budget. The Cabinet is made up of 6 councillors, each of whom is responsible for a particular range of services. My name is Councillor Paul Dundas. I am one of the ward councillors for Stanway, and I'm the leader of the council and responsible for the portfolio of strategy. And what I will do is I'll go around the room in this direction and ask portfolio holders to introduce themselves first, followed by officers. So, Councillor Lissimore.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Councillor Sue Lissimore, Ward Councillor for Prettygate, Deputy Leader of Colchester Borough Council and Portfolio Holder for Resources.
I'm Councillor Darius Laws, the Portfolio Holder for Economy, Business and Heritage, and I represent Rural Ward North.
Councillor Simon Crowe, Castle Ward, Portfolio Holder for Environment and Sustainability.
Andrew Ellis, Portfolio Holder for Housing and Planning, and I represent Marks Tay and Layout Ward.
Good evening, Councillor Beverley Oxford, Highwoods Ward, Portfolio Holder for Communities.
Adrian Pritchard, Chief Executive of the Borough Council.
Andrew Weavers, Monitoring Officer.
Richard Clifford, Democratic Services Officer.
Thank you, everyone. Let's move on. Item 2 is urgent items, and I do actually think we have a brief statement to be made by Councillor Laws.
With your permission, Leader, I'd like to make a brief statement on the basis of the news that came out of the Cabinet Office yesterday from Her Majesty the Queen in relation to the city status, if that's okay with you.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. The opportunity to be considered for city status next year by the Queen is something which this authority is going to have to consider. And it is incumbent on us councillors to begin immediately consulting with our residents to see if they are in favour of us making such a bid. Now, I realise that some people would argue that, well, as the first Roman city, we've never had city status revoked, but we are where we are, and it could be an interesting and exciting opportunity commercially and marketing-wise for Colchester. So it is something that does need to be considered. Furthermore, in the context of the Queen's Jubilee next year, we will need to consider how to mark that in a very Colchester-centric way. I have some ideas on that, which I'll be bringing to you shortly, and I'm sure it'll be a very exciting year for Colchester, given the times that we've been through recently. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. Yes, I think that's an interesting announcement, and I think I would strongly agree with what Councillor Laws has just said. I don't believe we have anything else on that item, so we'll move on to item 3, which is declarations of interest. I have one from Councillor Lissimore.
Thank you. I would like to declare an interest as Deputy Cabinet Member for Highways for Essex County Council. Thank you.
Thank you. No more? No, that is all. And we'll move on to item 4, which is minutes of the last meeting, which is to approve the minutes of the meeting of 10th of March 2021. Has anybody got any comments on matters arising from those minutes? No, then are we in agreement on them? Yes, I think I see nobody indicating otherwise, so I think we can take that as agreed. Thank you. And item 5 is have your say. We have one member of the public and a number of councillors. Mr. Skinner, I believe, wishes to speak. You're very welcome. Good to see you here. I don't know how familiar you are with the format, but you have 3 minutes to speak. And then after the responses from any councillors, you have a further minute to respond. So the floor is yours.
As part of post-COVID recovery, I would really like to urge the borough to actively promote lifelong learning in the town. The value of children's education has never been in doubt, but this should also be the case for adult learning because learning should really be a lifelong process. Through all kinds of learning, people can improve their lives to everyone's benefit because active minds better cope with life-changing circumstances. Adult learning, however, has never had as high a profile as children's schooling, and recent reference to adult education in the Queen's speech was about vocational training to regenerate the economy. But we also need to re-energise individuals, families and communities. The ideal curriculum for adults isn't a set of ladders to climb. It's more a climbing frame to explore, moving freely in any direction. The borough once had precisely that, even though it wasn't the education authority. Greyfriars Adult College was steeped in the community's needs, and it worked with others through the Colchester Learning Shop to make choices clear and accessible. The borough was a key partner in that venture. Both were town centre walk-in off-street facilities and no longer exist. So how do people find out what's available now? Well, it needs an honest broker facility, giving unbiased information and clear overview of choices, matching enquirers' motivations. Our charity, called Learning Never Stops, tried to fill the gap, but we close this year. There is now a real need for a one-stop shop to provide such a valuable service. Response to our lifelong learning festivals in 2017 and 18 and subsequent pressure on our website in 2019 proved this. Enquiries were well beyond our means working from my home office. This is where the borough can act. By actively promoting adult learning as part of post-COVID recovery, Colchester could be poised to enhance its reputation as a town of learning excellence for all its citizens, whether 5, 25, 55 or 95. I really urge the Cabinet to consider such a move.
Thank you very much. I think some good points there. I believe Councillor Laws is going to respond to some of them.
Good evening, Mr. Skinner. Thank you for coming this evening and that elegant presentation. I've considered the sentiments of what you've said, and I actually agree with them in the importance to the health of our residents, well-being, tackling inequalities, and strengthening families and communities. Whilst I also agree that it's wider than just training or reskilling for jobs. I mean, I'm a victim of someone that pretty much forgot my formal education at the age of 21 when I got a job, but I'm very open-minded to the principle of lifelong learning. And I do understand the importance of a physical presence, a shop, if you like. I'm also very sorry to hear that your charity, Colchester Learning Town, is struggling with capacity and is concluding. I believe you've already made some contact with Community 360. I understand they have some exciting medium and long-term plans, and there might be some collaborative opportunities there for you guys directly, but for the borough as well to take on board what you've said. I will also ask our One Colchester Partnership, which is made up with Essex County Council, Colchester Borough Council, the voluntary sector, business sector, the university, the institute, the police, many others, to consider this important area. And your suggestion to work alongside will happen in-house at CBC in our economic growth strategy work. I'll also ensure that colleagues at Community 360 consider how the community hub in the town centre, and indeed potential future hubs in the town centre, could offer some support on the principles of what you are striving to achieve and what you are still striving to achieve. I think the honest broker concept you highlight is a delightful approach, and I'm certainly very open-minded. So I thank you for your time, and feel free to keep in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Laws. Mr. Skinner, is there anything you'd like to add?
Only really that since the Learning Shop closed, which was a partnership of everybody working together, not in competition at all, there really hasn't been a clear collaboration between all providers to give an overall picture. And anything which can be put together through a community hub, which does not leave the whole thing open to the market and people's advertising, but puts the onus on the people who are giving the information to address the needs of the public rather than to address the gaps in courses. So it's a matter of looking at the wider picture and doing it through the community and not through separate advertising. So I would very much appreciate an opportunity to work with a community hub.
Thank you.
I should have perhaps declared the interest, which was that my mother took advantage of the Learning Shop before it became the Three Wise Monkeys, because she had, and still has indeed, appalling IT skills, and it was holding her back in her life. And so I do recognise that there are people that can't simply just be directed to a self-learning website to enhance their knowledge and skills. It sometimes does need to be physical. I know that's hard at the moment, but I'm very cognizant of it. So trust me, I'll look forward to talking to you in the future.
Thank you. It's about breaking down barriers. Thanks very much for the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming along. Now we have a number of councillors who wish to speak in the general Have Your Say. The first one is via Zoom and is Councillor Corey.
Good evening. Hopefully you can hear me. Good evening, and I wanted to say good luck, really, for the new administration, for you as leader, Paul, as I know exactly how it feels. I know the amount of time and effort that the Cabinet, previously the administration that I run, the time that we put in caring about our borough and every part of it, and putting in a lot of time to the meetings. So good luck going forward. We will hold you to account and scrutinise and support where good ideas come forward. Talking of good ideas, we had a vision and a strategic vision for Colchester. I wanted to understand at what point we will see a vision from you. I've heard about a 20-point plan, but I didn't see a manifesto during the election. So I wondered at what point we, as councillors, residents of the borough, will see a plan going forward for what is this administration's vision for Colchester. What are the 20-point plan procedures and proposals that you want to bring forward? And when will we find out about those? I've heard a lot about what you don't want and also what you don't stand for, but it'd be good to hear what you do want to see. And I'm sure, hopefully, there'll be things that we can all agree on. One thing I would really like to hear about your agreement on is continuing the ban on glyphosates, which we put forward a couple of years ago as part of our better greening of the borough and greater respect of our biodiversity. I'd like to see you continue on many of the green projects that we introduced in this borough. One of the final things I wanted to put forward was about connectivity and accessibility going forward. I really thank the Democratic Services staff for their efforts putting on the meetings so far and the meeting that you are at this evening. They have worked really hard to make this all happen. And actually, we're working hard because the government has failed us. It's really a poor situation to be put in by a national government. We need to be able to have hybrid meetings. It's beneficial for us all and safer for us all. So I want to understand, how is this administration going to ensure that the public can access these meetings successfully, but we can also respect the accessibility issues in terms of looking after a loop system, so people with less hearing ability than most of us can access the meetings as best as possible. It's quite a balance to be had, but I think we need investment quickly in order to make good the bad situation our government has left us in. So hopefully you have a response to that fairly soon. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think just about managed to hear most of that. I think, firstly, thank you for the kind comments. They are appreciated. In terms of our strategic vision, you're correct, we do have a number of points in our plan. What we are doing is working them through with the officers at the moment. What we don't want to do is get in a situation where we make promises we can't keep. So we want to ensure that we have the money and we have the resources to do them in the time we wish to do them. But I can assure you there will be quite a few press releases going out in the very near future. So I'm sure you'll be very excited to receive them. On the other points, certainly on the green thing, we as a council, I think unanimously voted to adopt the climate emergency plan. We made a commitment as councillors, or 51 of us, to our zero carbon commitment. We stick to what we voted for, so I can assure you that we will be pushing very hard on the green policy and maintaining, in fact, hopefully enhancing and accelerating some of them. On the hybrid meetings, I do agree. I know there's a wide range of views on them amongst councillors and the public. I thought, on the whole, actually remote meetings worked very well, surprisingly well. I think we're all surprised how well they worked. And let's face it, that also made a significant contribution to our carbon reduction. Just the sheer number of miles between all of us we've probably driven or travelled or maybe even cycled over the last 15 months really adds up. It was discussed, if I remember rightly, in the Governance and Audit Committee before COVID, moving to more of a hybrid system and enhancing our video, audio and audiovisual facilities, so we are more available online. I would encourage them to continue with that work. I think it is inevitable that we will, as a council, need to invest in more permanent audiovisual facilities for hybrid meetings in all our meeting rooms, in the moot hall, in the grand jury room and the council chamber. That will bring down the cost as well, and I hope that we will have broad cross-party support for that. I don't know if there's anything else any other portfolio holders wish to add at this stage. No? Councillor Corey, is there anything you wish to add?
Just to check that, so you are going to continue with the glyphosate ban. I just didn't hear you say that specifically, Councillor Dundas, but I hope that is the case. Thank you. Thank you.
I think the answer is yes. You dropped out just at that second, but I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. So, the next speaker, who is in the room, I think, is Councillor Fox. Councillor Fox, I don't think I need to tell you the procedure.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I would echo Councillor Corey's comments and wish you good luck, and hope that you can achieve the best for Colchester, and I look forward to the publication of a 20-point plan at some stage, even if you are still working on it. But I wanted to turn to the portfolio area that I used to have responsibility for, which was housing. And the previous administration set out an ambitious programme of house building, committing to an initial 350 new, genuinely affordable homes to rent. And I'd like to ask whether the new administration plans to continue those on the sites identified and with 30% affordable provision to meet the target within the original 5-year timescale. I'd also like to ask an additional question, which is around one of the campaign promises that the Conservatives made during the election campaign, which was to not build one more house than was necessary, And I wondered if you could let us know what the figure of that is, and how many houses you feel is necessary in Colchester for the coming year.
Thank you, Councillor Fox. What I can say on social housing is I think as an administration, and our Councillor Ellis may wish to come in and back me up on this, I hope he will, that we are committed to affordable housing and an ambitious social housing target. What I'm perhaps not going to guarantee is that every single site already allocated in terms of some of the more distant projects we will do, simply because I think at least one of the sites I can think of involve the removal of a large amount of public open space and sporting facilities. So that's one we're looking at. We felt that was a compromise too far, so we may look for a different site for those. I think actually I'll let Councillor Ellis come. Councillor Ellis, do you wish to come in on this before I go on to the second subject?
No, I'm happy to. I actually telephoned. I hope you got a message from me today, Councillor Fox, saying could we get together, for you to debrief me almost or brief me on what you've been doing for the last little while, and also to make sure that you attend briefings that I have with officers, because I think it makes perfect sense, especially in this portfolio, that we're working collaboratively and together, which is hopefully the way we'll go forward, because it doesn't need to be political, I don't think. I think we've all got the same agenda, which is to provide housing for people in need in Colchester. And I will definitely be looking at, definitely will be continuing with the 350 homes. We may, as Councillor Dundas has said, look at the sites. I think we're being briefed on some of those sites tomorrow, actually, which will give us a better idea of what we want to take forward. If we weren't taking forward one or two of those, then we will be looking for alternatives for sites to do it. I've had a short briefing at the end of last week, and I have another one on Friday with Colchester Borough Homes, where I'll be talking to them about ideas I've got. I've mentioned the odd thing to you. I do want to run some ideas past you, to do with accelerating and increasing the amount of social housing that we are able to offer in Colchester. So as far as your social housing question goes, absolutely, I'm signed up to it, and I want to do more, if anything. I'm acutely aware that is what is necessary, and it was made very aware to us when we were going through the local plan process over the last few years, as you know. As far as housing numbers are concerned, obviously we've adopted part 1, or section 1 of our plan. Let's hope that we can, that the inspector comes back with something positive for section 2. 920 is the target. I don't know whether you're trying to throw in a bear trap to see if we build 921, is that one too many? Let's see. At the end of the day, one of the things I'm asking, one of the issues we've got with our housing numbers, I think, and from a resident's point of view, is they don't believe we have the infrastructure to cope with the housing that we have built. And I think that's a very valid point, and I think a lot of us in the room would, I think all of us would probably agree, Colchester's creaking somewhat with the development which we have had to undertake for every government. It's not just this government, it's the previous government as well. It was John Prescott who actually double densityed us. Lakelands was going to be, I think, 200 houses, and it turned into 400 on the same piece of land because John Prescott said you needed to double the density at which you were developing. So that's just what happens. Governments want us to build houses and they come up with housing targets. I think that one of the pieces of work I'm going to be asking, and I've already spoken to the planners about it, strategic planning team, is for the local plan to undertake, is to actually do an infrastructure audit on Colchester. The County Council did one in 2017, the Greater Essex Infrastructure Plan. It was undertaken by AECOM. I don't think we made enough use of it through the local plan process. I'm going to ask us to do our own infrastructure audit, find out where the infrastructure in Colchester is working, find out where it's not working, which will inform our plan review. I think you're on the local plan panel, hopefully, so this is work that you'll hopefully be involved in doing. if that should involve our plan review, and it should involve the value of land within the borough, because in the areas where it works and the infrastructure is good, I'm looking forward to finding out where they are. And infrastructure, not just about roads, it's schools, it's doctors, dentists, NHS accessible ones, which I'm struggling with currently. Where those work, obviously the land has a higher value than where a developer is going to have to pump an awful lot of money in to make it work. But these are all things that we need to have a look at. But as far as I'm concerned, we have got a housing target. I'd like to try and stick to that housing target, but I want to have the teeth to be able to go back to government when we're discussing housing targets and say, yes, this is what it comes up with, but actually Colchester can't, because unless we get this amount of investment to make sure that we can. Does that sort of answer?
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Yes, just to back up what Councillor Ellis has said, the objective is OAN numbers, a lovely catchy phrase we all like, is 920. That is what has been assessed by people who probably know more about it than we do, as our housing need in the borough. Obviously, that is dependent on us getting a local plan in place. I think or hope that there is general cross-party support to get a local plan in place. We may disagree about some of the details. Back in February, we took the pragmatic view, and I said on the night when we had the vote that I might not agree with the details, but any local plan is better than no local plan, and that is why we abstained and made sure it passed. And obviously, I hope and expect that there will be a similarly constructive and sensible approach from the other parties if and when it comes back to full council during the year. I don't know if Councillor Fox wishes to add anything.
So I'm looking forward to hearing what the inspector says about section 2 of the local plan, and as Councillor Ellis has said, I'm sitting on the local plan committee, and look forward to the local plan committee being able to review the letter and the modifications that the planning inspectorate comes back with. Just in terms of the bear trap, it's not my bear trap. That's a trap you've set yourselves, I think, in terms of not one more house than is necessary. And if you're sticking to that 920 figure, that is a figure that we will hold your council to. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the next council on the list is Councillor Goss, so I think he's joining us via Zoom.
Hello, hopefully you can hear and see me. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for allowing me to speak this evening. I've got 4 questions and points I'm going to raise, so it'll be to a number of people. So first question and comment is on traveller incursion. On last weekend, we had traveller incursion again on Mill Road Rugby Club, or the former rugby club, and I just wondered whether Councillor Oxford could just let me know when officers first became aware of this incursion and who notified them, and also what her views are on transit sites and whether she'll be supporting Colchester or nearby to get a transit site, and if so, where in Colchester or nearby she might think that would be a good place to put them. Next comments and questions are around gumballs. You'll have seen some of the information in the press about Essex County Council not liking pink gumballs. I've seen some confusing messaging from both Councillor Lissimore and also from Essex County Council. There needs to be contradictions, so obviously again fact checked some of it. So I did check with planning on Friday after Councillor Lissimore last Thursday said that the reason that Essex didn't like the pink gumballs was because we didn't ask our own planning officers for their views. Well, I checked with 2 senior planning officers in slightly different capacities, and they both confirmed it's not a planning matter. Planning has no problem with the gumballs, and it's purely a highway licensing matter. And they don't have any problem. So I've obviously got those emails anyway, just to fact check that. So we do need to be careful what facts go out from us as councillors, because obviously people take us at our word. So it's just a point there. So I understand that the licence application is going to go back to Essex. I hope with the publicity that has been caused, they will absolutely be supporting pink gumballs, because there's been no planning enforcement complaints. There are no complaints from the public. The public like them. They keep our pavements clean. So welcome any comments on that. Next comment is around some of the complaints from residents around the cycle path along Headgate, which appears to be causing certainly some social media comment, some pollution and some traffic congestion. So I just wondered what the views were of the Cabinet on the longevity of this cycle lane along Headgate into the High Street remaining, and also what their views are on enforcement in the High Street with the possible implementation of a camera going in to obviously fine people if they drive down the High Street. So I'd be interested in the views of the Cabinet on that, please, although I know it is an Essex County Council function. And finally, wheelie bins. So again, back to Councillor Oxford, I believe there does seem to be a growing movement and support from residents who would like wheelie bins. It would be good for Colchester to actually have a uniform delivery of waste collections, because at the moment we have a hybrid system, 12,500 homes with wheelie bins. And basically, I'd like to know the views of Councillor Oxford and the Cabinet on the future of wheelie bins in the town and what they plan to consult or take them forwards, if at all, as certainly I know people in Highwoods and other areas have commented and asked about them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Goss. You make a few reference to the Cabinet in your question, so perhaps I'll just run through on behalf of the Cabinet, and then I'll see if Councillor Oxford wishes to add anything. On the travellers, I'm not 100% aware of the exact timing. I was copied into some of the correspondence. What I can tell you is one of our priorities to do an audit of many of our sites, our public sites, and check that we are doing everything we can in terms of security. The officers are aware that that is one of our priorities, indeed, possibly in our 20-point plan. And there will be a paper coming to us as portfolio holders very soon. On the gumballs, now in terms of licensing running out and planning permission and everything, and the project sort of ending, I think that a lot of the responsibility has to go to the previous administration, who seemingly didn't renew things. Obviously, we're looking at it from a standing start as to where we are now with it, not where we were 2 weeks ago. On the cycle paths, I mean, there's many mixed views on it. I remember actually when the cycle path was put in, it was actually agreed and backed by all groups. There was a leaders meeting where it was discussed, the initial proposals which came from Essex County Council, and myself and Councillor Goss and Councillor Oxford and Councillor Bourne agreed and backed them all at that meeting. So I think if we're unhappy with them now, perhaps we need to decide whether we're still in favour of them or not, but that's definitely a change of opinion. On wheelie bins, my view is very simple, that yes, I get the operational arguments, but also as councillors, we are responsible to listen to residents, and different residents want different things, and I think wherever possible, we should try and accommodate their views. If in a given area, it's clear that there is very wide support for wheelie bins, well then if it's possible operationally, maybe that's something we should consider. Equally, in an area where it's clear that there is very large opposition to them, which does happen, then I am personally very reluctant to impose something on people which they clearly don't want. So that is my view on them. I don't know if Councillor Oxford would like to add anything, be very welcome to.
Yes, thank you, Leader. As far as transit sites, yes, we do need transit sites to stop the illegal encampments, but where we need to put them is where the travellers need to go. Because if you don't put them where they want to be, they won't use them, and you'll be in just a bad situation as you were before. As for the travellers turning up on the rugby club, I knew about it at the weekend, and I did everything I could to inform the people that I should. If you knew about it before I did, it would have been nice if you would have contacted me, as it was actually in my ward, to make me aware, to see if I was aware or not, but you didn't. You went off and did other things for yourself. So I did everything I could as soon as I was aware. The gumball thing, it is down to a licence thing, and now we are starting to work together to get them reinstated as soon as we can. And as for wheelie bins, some people like them, some people don't. On my ward, and I can only speak for my ward, Some people want them, some people definitely don't. So we're going to do what we promised to do, which was a survey. Now the survey will be done, as the residents wanted, by paper. Unfortunately, we kept on being told that no, you're not to let them do it by paper. You tell them to do it digitally, and if they don't do it digitally, they don't do it. Well, I'm sorry, we're not going to do that. People who want to do it digitally, to say yes, they want them, or no, they don't, can, but the people who want to do it by paper will be able to do that as well. And as for fining cars going down the high street, both Gerald and myself kept on telling the previous administration, when are you actually going to do that? Because that was one of your ideas, that you were going to stop cars going down the high street. It was going to be taxis, buses and motorcycles. And if anybody else went down this high street, you were going to fine them. But you never got around to it. And I think that's about it, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lissimore.
Thank you. If I just may add a couple of things. With regards to travellers, this is an issue that I've worked with in the past very, very closely at Essex County Council. We had an incursion in my own ward a number of years ago, and following that incursion, we had some posts and trees put up, which up to now has been very effective. However, back in April, a resident noticed that the lockable post, which is used to ensure that the grass cutting equipment could get onto the green, had actually been removed. We reported it straight away to the officers at Colchester Borough Council, but it never got replaced. It's this sort of thing that can make the difference between an unauthorised access to a site and not. So we are doing an audit. We are going to ensure that there is as much security as possible on every site that we can. With regards to the gumballs, as Councillor Goss alluded to, planning have no problems with the gumballs, but planning were never asked as part of the re-licensing process. If Essex County Council were against the gumballs, then why did they not state this in 2019 when the first licence was given? And why did they not bring it up again in 2020 when the licence was renewed? There is a press statement that is being released tomorrow, a joint statement between Essex and Colchester, which does state that it was Colchester Borough Council that took the gumballs down. But we have, I've been working with Councillor Beverly Oxford, and we are doing everything that we possibly can to retrieve those bins and to get them reinstated as soon as possible. With regards to the cycle path, Councillor Goss should be aware that this is a live consultation at the moment being run by Essex County Council, and if he has residents coming to him complaining about any aspect at all of the COVID and cycle path restrictions in the town, it would be very good that those residents actually filled in the consultation. What I would do is I'll talk to Mr. Clifford and make sure that all councillors are made aware again of this consultation, and I would ask all councillors to urge their residents to complete it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lissimore. Anybody else? I think that's everything. Councillor Goss, if you're still there, is that helpful?
Yes, I'm still here. Thank you very much. Yep, just a point of clarity that the reason the gumballs were taken down was because I believe conversations between officers, they were told that Essex didn't approve of the pink balls, and that's why the licence was never renewed, because it was believed it was going to be rejected. Hopefully now with the publicity, Essex will think again, and obviously the balls can be back within the next month, which would be very positive. In terms of traveller incursion, the police were aware Friday night because residents were phoning them to make sure evidence was given in case Section 61 powers were, of course, used, but there wasn't a reason to. And obviously, as we know, the travellers left of their own accord on Monday, which was positive news for those obviously concerned about it. But the police were aware Friday night, and they did visit and all residents that contacted me were directed to call the police, which is the right procedure for the public. But thank you and enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thank you very much. I just want to endorse actually Councillor Oxford's statement about surveys. Actually, digital's all very well, but I think as councillors we know that a significant number of our residents still like to use bits of paper, and I know Councillor Goss is normally very enthusiastic about pieces of paper through letterboxes, so I'm quite surprised that was wrong. Anyway, moving on, Councillor Scordis, I believe, has a statement to be read by the Democratic Services Officer.
Thank you, Chairman. This is the statement submitted by Councillor Lee Scordis. It takes the form of 2 questions. The first is to the portfolio holder for environment and sustainability and reads as follows. With many of our grass verges being left to go wild, such as Cowtree Avenue and Avenue of Remembrance, would this summer be an opportune time to look at planting wildflowers here to help biodiversity? Better yet, could borough councillors be consulted on verges and plots of land for similar work to improve the aesthetics of the town? I already have a few ideas in my mind in my ward. And the second question is to the Leader of the Council. In your opening speech, you stated that you would be willing to criticise Essex County Council when they let Colchester down. Considering Essex Highway's failure on potholes and pavement repairs all over Colchester, will you be willing to stand up for the town and call out Essex County Council on their failings? Or is Colchester become a vassal state under the authority of Essex County Council? That's the end of the question, Chairman.
Thank you, and thank you to Councillor Scordis for sending that in. I don't think the last comment is really worthy of comment, but I will address the second question before we move on to the first one. We are, I think, all conscious that the roads have been a big challenge recently. I'm certainly aware of the condition of them. I'm sure everybody else is. We have had a very harsh winter, and of course we've also had a pandemic when the road crews have not been able to work in a normal manner, and they've had a large number of people off sick like many other services have. However, they've got the summer to catch up. I hope they do. We hope to see some improvements. If there are no improvements and we don't see it working, then the answer is yes, I will criticise Essex County Council, and I will have no hesitation in doing so. But for the first part of the question, I think we'll go to Councillor Crowe.
I'd like to thank Councillor Scordis in his absence for such a constructive question. And I've seen comments he's made before about his desire to encourage the planting of wildflower meadows, and it's something I do agree with, and the biodiversity that they bring. Now, people might think I'm a bit of a townie, living in town, representing Castle Ward, and maybe rightly so. I do like where I live, but I'm a lover of the countryside and its flora and fauna. And when I was a child, my grandfather spent his entire working life working for a Dr. Bernardo's home at a manor house in the Shropshire countryside as a gardener, groundsman, and I spent large parts of my childhood up there riding around in his tractor with him and helping him out with his jobs. And one of my favourite pictures of him is in 1945 digging up the pitch at Birmingham City's football ground to plant potatoes. And also, when I was a child, my dad was an avid gardener and lover of all things outdoors. And I spent another large part of my weekends as forced child labour helping him do work on his vegetable patch. So this townie is a bit of a country boy at heart. And I really do support the idea of wildflower meadows. Since 1945, the UK has lost 97% of its wildflower meadows, and it's something that we need to bring back. And I know we've been making some great efforts this year in not mowing verges and areas of open grassland, and that's absolutely fantastic, but that's not the wildflower meadow. What you get is long grass, cow parsley, dandelions and thistles. The wildflowers maybe come later, but that's a very long-winded way of doing it. What you need to do is cut the grass right back, then you scarify the land, then you seed it, and then you keep your fingers crossed and hope the wildflowers outgrow the grass when it grows back. And this is something that I've discussed with officers and Councillor Oxford, and we would like to introduce wildflower meadows around the borough on verges where it's a reasonable place to do it, open spaces, other larger open spaces, maybe roundabouts, anywhere where we think that we'd all benefit from the colour and diversity they bring, because the COVID crisis got us all going outdoors, enjoying the outdoors a bit more, and trying to lead more outdoor lifestyles, whether it's just walking through the park, going out into the countryside, riding a bicycle. And we need to be able to enjoy the outdoors more. And there's more to the sides of roads and roundabouts than cut grass. We can make the outdoor areas so much more attractive for people. So it is something that Councillor Oxford and I will be trying to promote over the coming weeks and months.
Thank you, Councillor Crowe, for that very comprehensive answer, I think. And I think, I hope Councillor Scordis listens to the recording or the information gets through to him one way or another. Next, we have Councillor Lilly, who has also sent a statement in, I believe.
Thank you, Chairman. And Councillor Lilly's statement also takes the form of a number of questions. The first one is to the Leader of the Council. Can I ask the Leader to reconsider the appointment to the Police and Crime Panel? I noticed that the Cabinet Member for Community Safety is not attending. It's really important that we carry on the combined work of a partnership that involves the Police and Fire Crime Commissioner and Chief Constable. This has been built up by working closely with everyone. How can that happen when the person responsible for crime is not attending? His second question is, can the Cabinet Member for Communities reassure everyone that Colchester will remain a member of ECTU? And can she work towards having a permanent site for travellers near the A12 and to convince other Essex members to do the same? And the third question is, as the building of the youth zone got the support of the Police and Fire Crime Commissioner and Chief Constable, can the Cabinet Member for Communities tell us she will also be supporting it? And can I suggest all Cabinet members attend a virtual tour of the youth zone? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll deal with the first one first. We have changed around some of the outside bodies. One of the reasons we're trying to bring in some other councillors is that we have a smaller cabinet this year. We're trying to be more efficient, a little bit more streamlined. And by doing so, we have already saved £16,000 a year in council taxpayers' money on councillors, on portfolio holders. In addition, in our groups, the two group leaders are in the cabinet and are not taking separate group leader allowances. So in actual fact, the savings compared to last year are even more than that. However, just to show we do listen, and I am always willing to listen to sensible arguments. And I think actually the point Councillor Lee makes is quite a good one. So I have looked at it, and I think he makes a good argument. So actually when we come to the agenda item, he may be pleasantly surprised by our decision. I will just pick up on the youth zone. It's important to remember that the youth zone is part of the town deal submission, and that is not done by the council. That is a board, the town deal board, and that is a cross-section of Colchester. A board set up, and most of the people selected, I should remind everybody, by the last administration, so I'm sure they've got full confidence in those people. And it is they who will make the decision as to what actually goes finally forward for the funding under the Town Deal Fund and as regards the youth zone. I think the youth zone is something we are all looking to educate ourselves on. It seems to have a considerable amount of merit, but we've got to be sure that we can afford to build it, and we've got to be sure that we can afford to run it. Other than that, I will ask if Councillor Oxford wishes to make any other comments on the other items.
Yes, thank you, Leader. As for your ECTU question, yes, definitely. And yes to the youth zone. We have a virtual tour of what a youth zone is, because I don't know what they are and I've never seen one. So we have a virtual tour coming up next week, I think, so then we can find out exactly what is what. And yes, we have listened, and I am going to be on the police and crime panel as a member on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Oxford. Yeah, I can confirm that all of the portfolio holders, we have a virtual tour already scheduled for next week of the Youth Zone, and we're all very much looking forward to it. I think the next speaker we have is Councillor King, who is live via Zoom, I think. I hope. Councillor King, are you with us?
I'm indeed.
Good evening.
Good evening to you. There's a pause where you're asked to make a change and come on stream. So good evening, everybody, and to you, Paul, and to all your colleagues. As others have said, our best wishes. You'll want to do your best for all of us. We know that there will be a weight of responsibility. I think those of us who've been there will understand that, but it is a great privilege to help shape the future of the town, and we can do nothing else other than wish you well. It's our belief, of course, that the last administration left you a set of treasures, but we'd have to admit there will obviously be some challenging issues in your in-tray, but much I hope that will earn your support. In that spirit, my questions to you as leader of the council around the town deal, which we have touched on, I understand. This was put together by the last administration now and our officers. I think much of it is widely supported and agreed. It is a fantastic opportunity to improve our town. We will secure investments that will make the place we love a better one to live, work and visit. And that really matters for jobs, income and the health of retail and hospitality as much as anything else. I do want to add a bit of a flavour to your own remarks about how it's created. I mean, it was created cross-party, cross-town. It had government advisors in, members influencing and shaping this, public consulted. It was very much, although for that we are Colchester Board and owned by them, that's quite right. It has a huge amount of influence, rightly so, by CBC and the County Council partners. So you now and we then have a responsibility to try and see it through, and I know you'll take that in the spirit I've just described. My questions that go from that, you know my particular interest in the youth zone, it's great to hear you're going to have a look at that, are whether the new cabinet remains supportive of the town deal as submitted, accepting that there may be some adjustment. The inclusive nature by which it was assembled, and I ask for your assurance that it will be developed and delivered along those lines in that continuing cross-community, cross-party manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor King, and thank you for the kind words at the beginning. I'll address myself a couple of those issues. Firstly, on the town deal, I think the short answer is yes. I know that Councillor King was actually very personally involved in the formation of it. In fact, I seem to remember being at the first meeting where there was a very disparate group of people came together in the grand jury room who'd never met before. But he does deserve credit for actually, it was his personal sort of drive, I think, actually really brought the whole thing together. And of course, it's been successful. We didn't quite get the 25 million, but we got 18.2 plus the 1 million advanced. And we very much hope through other match funding, we will eventually get the whole 25 million. So yes, we do support it, and we do plan to continue with it in the spirit that it was formed. There are, of course, other opportunities with that already being formed. Councillor Laws mentioned earlier about the possibility of a city status bid. I'm inclined to think, well, actually, if we have these cross-party bodies, or cross-party, I'll say actually cross-party isn't the right word because they're not all political people, cross-section of Colchester. If we have them there, I think something like a city bid, it would perhaps be a great vehicle or a great starting point to put a bid together for city status, if that was something we were minded to do. We have the potential of bidding for the Levelling Up Fund, which is another tranche of government money we could possibly secure for Colchester. That may be another example of work we could use the town deal board or a version of it to look at that. So yes, we are supportive of it. I think I'm right in saying you also mentioned the actual projects, yeah, we're supportive of those projects in the town deal list, which we're already bid for. So I don't see any change there. Would anybody else like to add anything? No? Councillor King, do you wish to ask anything further or comment? You're on mute. It's the first time we've said that this evening.
Well, there always has to be one, and let it be me. No, that's fine, thank you. I welcome the assurance. I think the demonstration of that would be, and you'll have to talk, I know, to officers about how it is to ensure that we have some good lines of communications. You've got some tricky months ahead as you pull together the additional alternative funding and go through that project list and refine it within the funds in train or the timetable ahead. And I think that that's where the risk is, that we lose each other. So my request and advice is that we look carefully at that how we keep that big pool of people, very disparate. Yeah, I remember those meetings. We both looked at each other a couple of times thinking, heavens, but it got to a great place of a broad agreement. We now have what we have, and I think the real key will be to keep those wheels turning. No small issue when your officers would have so much on, but if they could do that, that will help turn the words into a real assurance, and I thank you for it.
Thank you. Yeah, you're certainly right that we have got a tight timetable, and you know, I would just like to publicly thank everybody on the Town Deal Board for the work they've put in and continue to put in. I believe we have one more speaker via Zoom, and that's Councillor Scott Buttell. Good evening.
Good evening, Councillor Dundas. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
And the rest of Cabinet. I've got a couple of points that I wish to raise. The first being is the work that the policy panel undertook last March regarding the possibility of a borough memorial for victims of COVID-19. I was one of the members lobbying for this, as I've been in contact by Stanway residents requesting a place for reflection and remembrance of family members and friends. I was pleased to see the proposal receive support from the panel and the former Cabinet. I hope that the new Cabinet can accept the recommendations made by the panel, and as a returning member of the policy panel, I look forward to seeing the update. I urge Cabinet to go further and consider rolling out, in addition to a borough memorial, funding to assist parish, town and community councils to enable them to provide a local memorial for their communities if they so wish. I raise this because I've been approached again by Stanway residents requesting a local memorial as well as a more formal borough one. It is important that each community can pause, think and reflect on those that have lost their lives to or have been affected by COVID-19, and also as a place to give thanks to those key workers who have carried out vital work during the pandemic. So that's the first point I want to make. I also wish to talk about wheeled bins. My thanks to Councillor Crowe for arranging the prompt investigation and response from officers to my request for wheeled bins in the areas of Lawrence Burn Avenue and the roads off Lawrence Burn Avenue, and also the new developments, plural, off Dyers Road. I understand that the wheeled bin route for Stanway is running at overcapacity, which puts added pressure on our crews. I've been advised that to be able to offer wheeled bin service to more areas of Colchester, it would require the introduction of a new vehicle with wheeled bin capacity. I understand the other option is the conversion of an existing vehicle, but that would impact on the current established Black Sap routes. Stanway is not the only ward that is areas within asking for wheeled bins. I also regularly see requests from Markstay and Layer residents. I've been told that my request cannot be met at this moment because of cost. However, Councillor Dundas, you did say in the Gazette that the waste service would be reviewed. In reviewing the waste service, can I be assured that Cabinet will be looking to keep waste collection in-house and investing in the equipment needed to deliver and match residents' expectations? And just a quick final note, although I'm struggling to hear because it's very, very echoey what's coming from the Moo Hall. I did hear about wildflowers, and I just have to say that I invested some of my locality budget on wildflower seed And I think Stanway is going to be one of the first areas, if not the first area, that will have wildflowers in our verges. So I couldn't resist that last little comment. But seriously, if you could look at the memorial issue and bear in mind the comments and reassure me about Will Binns, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott-Buttell. On the policy panel, I think it is an agenda item this evening, and I think there is certainly the intention to put that back to the policy panel with some positive instructions. I think we're all in general agreement about the potential for a memorial. On the supporting, local area ones, well, yes, I think that's quite a nice idea, and that may be something which the policy panel wants to look at, but we'd obviously have to look at the costs, and it may be a case that it's more a case that we support organisations like parish councils and town councils. I'm sure it's something Stanway Parish Council could look at themselves, and they may want to take that on as their own project. On wheelie bins, obviously I'm aware of the different views. I'm certainly aware of them in Stanway. I think we both are. I'll let Councillor Crowe come in at this stage to see if he wishes to add anything.
I don't feel there's much I can add to that at the moment.
Thank you. I will just answer one short question though on the in-house nature of our waste service. There are no plans to change that at all. Councillor Lissimore.
Can I just add very briefly, because I've had a discussion with Councillor Crowe with regards to the waste services, and yes, we are looking at a review on their efficiency at present. We seem to be getting more and more complaints, and I know I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the crews for all the wonderful work that they've done through a very, very difficult time. And again, what they're doing at the moment in this heat, it's not a job that many of us would want to do. So thank you very, very much. There are issues over the 4-day-week contract that they have at the moment, and there are still ongoing issues with agency staff. Whilst we're very grateful for the agency staff, it does cause problems on some sort of routes, so I can assure Councillor that we are looking into the routes at the moment and looking into the staffing levels.
Thank you, Councillor Lissimore. I'm sure we would all endorse your comments about our hard-working crews as well. Councillor Scott-Buttell, I hope that helps answer the questions.
And I've unmuted. Yeah, I am. I didn't quite hear what you said, Councillor Dundas, about keeping the waste services in-house. Sorry, I didn't catch that. And I will be probably replaying this on YouTube and see if I can hear a little bit better. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I can say that again, that we have no intention or no plans not to keep them in-house.
Brilliant.
Hopefully that's clear. And I think that completes the have your say, unless I missed anybody. No, I don't think so. So we will move on with the agenda. And the next agenda item is item 7. 7.1, Queen Street Grow On and Digital Working Hub Facility. Now we do have a have your say speaker on that, Councillor J. Young. I certainly don't need to tell you how it works. I'm sure you know. Please proceed.
Good evening, Leader and Cabinet. As indicated in the recommendation on the Grow On space item, the project meets a long-standing and regional need. And I wanted to seek your assurance of your commitment to this project. In having worked closely with the Colchester Creative Partnership over the past 2 years, I know how much this Grow On space is needed, and I regret seeing comments from Conservative councillors made after the announcement of the funding that what Colchester didn't need is more office space. What we have learned from the Creative Business Hub is that working collaboratively from one site has brought many benefits. I commend that collaboration, and that has happened over design. And I am passionate that this new facility, which will be one of the pieces of the jigsaw that breathes new life into this site. Councillor Dundas, we are yet to see your plans for Vineyard and Britannia car parks, but I hope that this innovative project will be enthusiastically supported by your cabinet.
Thank you very much. Well, I think I'll go over to Councillor Laws to incorporate those comments as he introduces this item, and I hope we'll have some good news for you.
Chairman, Councillor King also indicated he wishes to speak on this item.
I beg your pardon. I'm very sorry to Councillor King. Councillor King, I think we've missed his clock as well, so we're safe for that. Councillor King, are you there?
I hope I am.
Yeah, we can hear you. Carry on.
Thank you. My words are the briefest, really. They're in support of Councillor Young's from the economic and business perspective. She's described so well what she knows from the need and the creative digital industries and their welcome. But there is a real uptick in potential here for our business development, which is acknowledged in the paper. And I won't take Cabinet's time on this, but just to sort of say, knowing how hard it was to secure investment here, the prospect deserves full-hearted support. I think that the designs which attracted some negative comment will turn out to be more attractive than some of the visuals might have suggested. Those who have seen them when we had a public session did welcome what they saw. So I do suggest to you that there is a good measure of public as well as those affected support for this proposition and make a real difference, another one, to that part of the town, and I commend it accordingly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor King. I'm strangely tempted whenever I see this come up on the screen to say here are the votes from the Marlene jury, but I didn't do that. Councillor Laws.
With permission, Leader, I'm happy to move to the item, and if Councillor Young would like to respond with her right to reply, she's entitled to do that if you're okay with that.
I would suggest it makes sense for you to introduce the item, and then if Councillor Young or Councillor King wish to come back for their right to reply at the end, that would seem a sensible time to do if they're in agreement.
Great, thank you. Well, first of all, may I pay tribute to you, Councillor Young, for your role in this project and all the work you did as portfolio holder prior to recent days. Councillor King, also thank you for your comments. I know that you've been on this in terms of the business case, which is a significant one, which, as you know, involves the government's external multi-million pound town bid that we are successful on for that particular site. Colleagues, this is a co-funded project. The first scheme that happened in this area was number 37 Queen Street. I know it well. It used to be Chicago Rock Cafe. Prior to that, I believe it was a police station. I've walked it extensively myself. It is a facility that is clearly working because it is and always has been oversubscribed. And the other bonus about it is that it's accessible to members of the public because you can take advantage of the social space downstairs over a latte, a craft ale, a nice piece of cake, or play a board game, and it's very good if you've got a 3-year-old. The report tonight is obviously about the next door facility. Now I understand, and I've been following the history of this specific site, and I know that there was at one point a discussion around could there be some kind of museum extension facility there, and that wasn't viable at the end, and the funding didn't come forth. So we've moved to this Grow On scheme, which will work very closely with number 37. The report, for me, I'm quite happy to let this go through, as is the recommendation. the town deal before us is bringing in significant money for the 5G, for the digital working hub. We know, don't we, that small businesses need to cluster together. And we know that for every business that was started in a garage, there is a potential that it might become the next Apple. And so the focus on digital for our future skills jobs is the right thing to do. It will regenerate a site that is not going to be the Theatre Royal anymore. It's not going to be a bus depot anymore. It's a challenging site, but it's one that I think will enhance that part of town. And I recommend Cabinet approve the report this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Laws. I'd just like to endorse what you said. Yes, we can look back and say, well, would we have done something slightly different? Well, who knows? We might have done something slightly different, but the project unlocks £3.5 million of CELEP funding. It is an integral part of the town deal bid and funding for the Digital Grow On Hub, and it regenerates what is frankly currently a derelict building. So I think Councillor Young and then Councillor King, if you wish to come back and say anything, you are very welcome to do so.
Yes, thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Laws. All I would add is that it wasn't a blank piece of paper available for us to shape in any which way we wanted. To attract the funding to regenerate that site, there had to be a specific proposal made. And that proposal was worked up in collaboration with those arts organisations, which, as Councillor Laws rightly said, start quite small in 37 Queen Street and then often move up to London when they haven't got the space available to build their business and grow their business. So that need is both local and regional. So that application attracted funding from CELEP based on that proposal. So the opportunity to do something different there really wasn't there. It had to be a scheme that would seek funding or attract funding from CELEP. And I'm pleased to say that that application did attract that funding. I think it won't only benefit the businesses that operate out of 37 Queen Street and perhaps new businesses that might come there, but it will provide that social space on the ground floor that has been described at the hub at the moment. But the proposal is to have a bar type facility. And I hope to see in the part of the building that there will be the opportunity to sell items there from the creatives as they create those pieces. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor King, you also have a right to reply if you want to.
Thank you very much, Leader and Councillor Laws. No, I'm just really pleased to hear this will go ahead with your support. Councillor Julie Young has described, as I would hope to, how well this had to be shaped for success. I think there's perhaps just one point I'd add in this, which is we will see, and as a council we were, starting to look at the needs of people adjusting to the new ways of working. So that's going to be one of those big influences which will shape tenancy, occupation, and income for businesses and types of businesses, including those who support people who work in the town. So this is just one real example, and we are lucky to have something coming through where we're meeting part of the existing gap, providing an opportunity for larger businesses than before, but there will be other needs as well. But so I welcome this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I should just add also, I think I'm right in saying that all portfolio holders, we have a tour of 37 Queen Street booked to go and see some of their latest work as well. So unless any other councillors wish to come in on anything, we have a decision to be made tonight, and the decision is to seek approval for the delegation of the key contracts and delivery of the 43 Queen Street Grow On scheme and digital working hub to the portfolio holder for economy, business and heritage. Are we in agreement on that? No one against? That is agreed. Thank you. I'll just check the time. I think we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is 7-1. And we have a have your say speaker again, which is Councillor Jay Young.
Thank you, Leader. The minutes of the Scrutiny Committee are as presented to the Cabinet tonight. What I wanted to reiterate is the grave situation that exists if our arts organisations do not receive the backing of local authorities, not just in the cash that doesn't flow their way, but the impact that this has with larger funders and funding bodies. What larger funders want to see is local support for their continuation. If what they do isn't valued by us, it won't receive funding from them. The minute articulates what a fantastic job First Sight, the Mercury and Colchester Arts Centre have done during COVID to support the people of Colchester emotionally, physically and spiritually. They will lead the way in Colchester's recovery. I hope to see you stand by their funding, which was agreed by the previous administration for 3 years, but go further in pursuing Essex County Council to end their position of retracting our arts funding. ECC's funding to First Sight ended in March of this year. Such a decision is catastrophic to them, and I am seeking the new Cabinet members' commitment to making the case to ECC to change their minds. Equally, ECC needs to back the public realm work around the Mercury. It cannot be left to CBC to fund all of this work without their contribution being made. There are people around this table tonight that should be able to deliver a solution on behalf of the arts organisations. I am looking to you to help them.
Thank you. Councillor Laws, would you like to introduce the item and try and respond to Councillor Young?
Sure. This council recognises and actively works with our 3 major funded partner arts organisations, First Sight, the Mercury Theatre and the Colchester Arts Centre. They are absolutely critical to the vitality of our town centre, our old town centre, and the health and the well-being of our residents. We also recognise that these institutions play a huge role in our economy, employing Colchester people directly, as well as a variety of freelance contractors, associated artists, creatives, and other supply chains, such as the food and drink and the meat that's served within these facilities, which is important for the local economy. It is pleasing to see the collaboration that now truly is happening within and between all 3 of these institutions. And I know that they are all going to be playing a very important role in influencing the upcoming cultural strategy review, which the council is engaging with the external specialists Counterculture with. The point that Councillor Young makes about us seeking to persuade the other local authorities to help in financially assisting these organisations is an important one. I recognise that having that logo of the local authority as part of any desire to leverage other monies is really important. I completely get that, I heard the specific point about First Sight there, and I will take that back and have a look and see if there's any tools of persuasion in my vocabulary on that. So she has assurances on that. On the report, there's a final point here about how these organisations need to engage with the councillors. I actually think that's obviously correct, but it's very, very incumbent on us as councillors to be proactive with them, because you might think that actually, you know, you're more of a Mercury Theatre person than a Colchester Arts Centre person. And I would challenge that and say that these organisations do offer something for everyone. It's incumbent on us to get familiar with the output. It's very easy to do that through the various distribution lists you can sign up to and the social media outputs, and it's incumbent on us to share that within our platform, albeit not a massive one in terms of Facebook following in my case, but it's important to share what these guys are doing. The focus is often about the big three, but I should stress, and I think I did make the point earlier, that it's the effect that they have on the cultural scene overall. There are many people out there quietly contributing who maybe don't get the exposure because they're one-man bands, pardon the phrase, but they're very important overall in terms of what Colchester has to offer the residents here and the people who come and visit here and spend money here and stay here at the weekends and have town or city breaks here. So thank you very much. I move that you should consider the recommendations, and if Councillor Young would like to respond, feel free.
Councillor Young.
Only so far as to say I welcome the Cabinet members' support for the new cultural strategy. I think it's a really important document that is being drawn up, and Counterculture, I have no doubt, will do a fantastic job. As you say, the arts organisations are collaborating well, but that is absolutely imperative for them to do so to attract Arts Council funding going forward. I think we should be very proud of our arts organisations. I've tried to champion their cause over the last 2 years, and I'm sure you will do so also. Finally, I won't stay for the appointments to outside bodies leader, but I was disappointed that you are removing me as a representative on First Sight, and I know that is regretted by the Board of Trustees at that organisation. But I thank you for your time.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Laws. First, on the recommendations, I was actually on the scrutiny panel when we discussed these. So, as you might imagine, I am in approval of them. I'd look rather silly if I wasn't. I would endorse Councillor Laws' comments as regarding the extra clout, having the logo on the organisation for attracting funding. What I would say, I think, in fairness to Essex County Council, as I understand it, there was a funding agreement for a number of years. So I'm not sure if it was a case that it was withdrawn as such. It's just that it came to an end. I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong on that. But Cabinet members, our job really is whether we accept the recommendations. So that is the question. I hope you've all read them. I can read them very quickly if you'd like me to. But they are that Cabinet formally recognise the importance of the three art organisations built on trust and partnership working. I don't believe any of us can disagree with that. B, Cabinet explore whether the procurement model used for the Mercury Rising project can be used more widely by the Council to boost the local economy. I think actually, if you look at the strategic plan in terms of procurement, I think that a lot of what we do as a council is already does that, but I think we can certainly take on board any lessons learned from the Mercury procurement. And all councillors be kept informed of all outreach work and events by the arts organisations to ensure that they can share the great work undertaken within the cultural sector and ensure that those who could benefit from them have the opportunity to do so. And also, as Councillor Laws made the point, it is the responsibility of councillors for us to be proactive and use our arts facilities and find out what they're doing. So, do we as a Cabinet accept those recommendations? Agreed? Thank you. And we will move on to item 8, which is resources. 8.1, which we have no speakers on that I've been advised of, and I shall pass over to Councillor Lissimore to introduce this item.
Thank you. Just again like to thank officers for all the work that they've done on this particular renewal, and it is as read. Thank you.
Thank you. Have any other councillors got any other comments? No, nobody's indicating. So I think we will move straight to the vote on that. Are we in agreement? Nobody disagreeing? I'm seeing no shakes of the heads. Therefore, I think we can take that as approved. Item 8.2 is local authority remote meetings call for evidence, and we have Councillor G. Oxford to speak on this item.
Thank you, Leader. I had to wait for me lights to light up, sorry. Yeah, I wasn't going to speak tonight at all, but I thought I would just add my tuppence worth about the online. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, the online meetings, but personally I felt that they were useful in the last 15 months, but I think they've proven that going forward, there is a place for them, because I was told that more members of the public watched meetings that were online than have ever come to meetings in the town hall. So therefore, greater community involvement has been in place. So I think that's a plus. Plus, it's easier for members, particularly those that are working away. You can sign on and get into the meetings, etc., from virtually anywhere. And the other thing as well is we're not all driving all over the borough and from beyond, because some members live outside the borough, to come in for meetings backwards and forwards. And I believe the CO2 issue was mentioned earlier, and that's quite a contribution given the fact we're in the climate emergency. So I just think there is a place for remote meetings even now going forward. And I wanted to add my tuppence worth. I was nearly sidetracked by Councillor Goss's theatricals earlier, but I thought I won't rise to the bait. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Oxford. I think, yes, I mean, as the surveys sort of show, you know, I know there's different views on this. I'm personally fairly pro remote meetings for the reasons Councillor Oxford have outlined. I'm very pleased that we are continuing with them as a council for things like briefings, for committees and things, and I'm pleased that we are developing, and I think it's just about working tonight, a hybrid system where councillors who are not part of a committee can effectively dial in and attend remotely and give their contribution. I think the point about being able to do it from other places, we actually got better attendance from councillors over the last 15 months. I know a cynic could say that's because they hadn't got anything else to do because the pubs were shut. But nonetheless, I think in reality, it meant far less substitutions. I saw people making contributions from overseas. I tried from a tent with an angry wasp. I wouldn't recommend the angry wasp bit. And yes, I think more people were watching. I think that there's no doubt about that. Any other councillors wish to say anything on this item? Councillor Ellis.
Just briefly, just to pick up on something Councillor Oxford said about people participating, public participating. Actually, as someone who attends a lot of parish council meetings, we've had far more members of the public attending parish council meetings remotely than we ever have had having to come into a village hall or what have you, parents who can't get childcare or what have you, who are perfectly capable and able then to attend a meeting and have their say, which I think is a great thing. So I was very disappointed when that's sort of being removed, and I think that's why I think hybrid meetings are a very good thing. I'm slightly disappointed that 19 people didn't respond to the looking at this. 19 councillors didn't actually respond to the questionnaire that we were sent out. However, it certainly captures everything that I was saying. The carbon footprint thing is really important. As someone who I live in Peldon, you know, it's quite rural. Getting in by bus can be difficult. Certainly the bus timetable doesn't work very well for me. Getting to the bus station or the bus stop, I have to walk along a road with no pavement and no lighting. It's not easy. Whereas I can sit at home, I can go to a meeting, as we have so many of these meetings. They've been fantastic this year. For parish council meetings, I don't need to miss meetings because I can attend a meeting, close off with one. I haven't got to get in my car and then drive from Marks Day to Lair de la Haye. I just press a button and I'm in the next meeting. It's a fantastic way of working as far as I'm concerned. I'm slightly frustrated that we're looking at only being able to do it for, we are looking at having, you've got to be physically in a room if you're going to be making a decision. It is only councillors, the hybrid one looks to be, it's only councillors who aren't part of that decision-making process. I'm very happy moving to online completely if I could do, but we are where we are. But I'm certainly happy with this report that's going forward as the evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we are basically constrained by the law on that one. Councillor Lissimore, as this actually comes under your portfolio, is there? I've been very rude and not gone to you first. Is there anything you wish to add?
No, but thank you very much. No, I think the other, say, Councillor Ellis has summed things up very well. We must always facilitate those that do not have either the IT skills or the IT equipment to participate. That is a given, absolutely. But we have saved an enormous amount of CO2. We as councillors and officers, I believe, have been far more efficient because, as Councillor Ellis says, I've had back-to-back meetings virtually all day today, and it works exceedingly well. The paperwork is all there ready for you because it's all there on screen. So I really hope that we can have some form of hybrid meeting procedure in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lissimore. So I'm seeing no other councillors indicating. So our decision is to approve the response, which is in the agenda document pack, to the government's call for evidence in respect of remote meetings. Do we approve it as presented in the agenda? We do. We see no disagreement. So that has been agreed. I'm conscious that it's 7:30. I'm happy to press on, but would people like a 5-minute comfort break, or are we okay to press on? I see everybody would like to press on. That's good. Item 3 is the policy panel work programme, which again is Councillor Lissimore.
Thank you. As read, happy to put forward to you.
That was quick. I like that. Okay, in which case we are considering the recommendation contained in the draft minute 15 of the policy panel meeting of the 3rd of March 2021. I beg your pardon. In which case, are we in agreement on this? Yes, okay. That was very efficient, thank you. We'll push on to item 9. We have one item under this portfolio, which is review of bus services, and we have your say from Councillor Fox. Councillor Fox, would you like to come forward?
Thank you very much. When I first joined the council, Councillor Scourdis and I pushed for the scrutiny panel to look at bus services in Colchester, and since then it appears everyone wants to talk buses, and I was pleased that the scrutiny panel did so again. Look at buses in Colchester, and they're expensive, unreliable, on routes designed 40 or 50 years ago. Many of them are far from friendly to the environment, guzzling out harmful diesel fumes that are harmful to human health and the wider ecosystem. Compare that to regulated buses in London that are cost-effective, regular, and have new state-of-the-art fleets. Frankly, this is another issue where Essex County Council failed to use the powers and regulations that are even available to them, and Labour councillors continue to push this issue at County Hall in Chelmsford. We would prefer a new municipal bus company, but despite the recent de facto nationalisation of train services by the current government, there remains a bar from the government on local councils delivering a service. And so we have looked at alternatives, including a community, cooperative or mutual model of delivery that would put users and not shareholders at the heart of a service. And I would like to call on the new administration to follow the lead of the Labour and cooperative leaders such as Andy Burnham in Manchester and Tracy Brabin in West Yorkshire to push Essex County Council and the government so that we can deliver a public transport system in Colchester that local residents can rely on and is fit for the 21st century and delivers on our commitment as a council to tackle the climate emergency. And so therefore I call on you to go further than the recommendations in the scrutiny panel and to really push for the sorts of bus services that we know can be delivered and should be delivered in Colchester. Thank you.
Thank you. I think what I'll do is we'll go to Councillor Crowe to introduce the item. Then if you wish to come back and say anything at the end, that seems to be the most sensible. I'll just say as a brief introduction, I think there's some good points there. I've expressed some of my frustrations with the bus service at the scrutiny panel. Again, I was on the scrutiny panel when this was discussed. What we, unfortunately, as you are aware, we are not a transport authority. We are a level 2 authority, district authority. What is interesting, I think, is there are some encouraging signs in the government's plans for buses. There's been a document out which I think has some promising ideas in it. I hope some of the details when they come forward will actually give us slightly more powers to do some of the things you've suggested. But I think I'll move to Councillor Crowe to introduce the item formally.
Thank you. In 2019, a council declared a climate emergency in this borough, and as a council we have an absolute duty to ensure that the steps mapped out in our climate emergency action plan happen. I live just off East Street, which is one of the most polluted streets in this borough, so I'm painfully aware of the effects of pollution just by looking at the houses outside the courtyard where I live and how quickly they get dirty and need repainting. It's a very visible sign. And part of what we need to do is get people out of their cars. And I'm often asked, and I'm sorry if you've heard me tell this story before, but when people say to me, "You're a councillor, what are you going to do about congestion?" I say, well, I'm going to try to make you use your car less, because that's part of the solution. We've all got to use our cars less, and we've got to ride bicycles or walk or use e-scooters. And then there's buses, those great big things on the road that have always been there that can take lots of people to the same places all at once and cut down on the emissions of a dozen or 2-3 dozen cars. So we must support the objectives in the safer, greener, healthier lifestyles, and support environmentally friendly means of travel. And I took part in the scrutiny debate. I subbed for Kevin Bentley. I did find it very interesting. And it was interesting to listen to the bus operators talk about the difficulties they faced, not only prior to COVID, but since. And I feel that obviously that's worthy of our support. So I would feel minded to accept the recommendations with the following added. Cabinet acknowledges that a number of the issues raised by the panel and included in these recommendations, including enabling disabled passengers to travel with confidence, are addressed in the government's bus strategy and future detailed regulations. As such, Cabinet will create opportunities to influence the implementation of the strategy for the benefit of residents.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Fox, would you like to come back on any points at this stage?
Thank you very much, Chair. I do think this is probably one of those issues on which a lot of us actually agree more than we disagree, and it's good to hear that additional recommendation that Councillor Crowe has put forward. As another councillor mentioned tonight, you said you weren't going to kowtow to Essex County Council and to push Colchester's to the fore in terms of where they might be letting us down, and certainly I'd hope that you would do that on this particular issue as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I think some of the frustration sometimes we have with the bus service is you'll hear it from all councillors and many residents. I think, to be fair to the bus companies, obviously we do at the moment have to recognise the situation they've been in over the last 15 months. I can think of probably no other industry, perhaps apart from the airline industry, which has had their revenue devastated to such an effect. I've seen many empty buses driving around. You know, there are no bus companies, I believe, in Essex running at a profit at the moment. In fact, they are all being subsidised massively by the government just to keep the services running. And I think actually we have to compliment the bus services on keeping the services going in some very difficult circumstances, enabling particularly key workers, to still get to work. And I think in that respect, over the last 15 months, they've done a grand job. So I just want to be clear, Councillor Crowe, the proposal is that we accept the recommendations as in the agenda with the addition of the one you've just given. Is that what we're voting on?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, if that's what's on the table then, do any other councillors wish to speak on this item? Councillor Ellis.
Just briefly, actually, Chairman, having read this, and I remember chairing, I think Pam will remember, I chaired a meeting where we did exactly the same thing, scrutinised the bus companies, and it's disappointing that we haven't, and this was a lot of years ago, and it's disappointing we haven't moved on that much further. But I would say, I think Councillor Fox is right, and I think we've spoken about it. Public transport system in Colchester that really works for Colchester is exactly what we do need. And I think we're going to have to work very closely with the county council to try and make sure that that happens. And I'm very happy to do that. I think it will be part of the cabinet that is doing that. But he's absolutely right. If we're going to get people out of their cars, we have got to provide them with choice, and one of those choices has got to be using public transport through Colchester. It's frustrating that at the moment that I think public transport was really gaining some traction and bus use gaining traction, we have had a pandemic, which has made people want to isolate themselves and get into their little boxes, metal boxes, and drive around rather than get on a bus because we have to, they've had to isolate. It's incredibly frustrating, and I think it set us back quite a long way. Which we're going to have to work very, very hard to recover, but we need to help make that happen. But thank you. Yeah, I'll certainly accept the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Lissimore.
Sorry, just to add, I would urge all councillors to have a look at the Bus Back Better document that the government released in March. It could virtually mirror the comments that have been made from this scrutiny panel. It's very, very interesting reading. It's very plain English. It's an easy document to read, but it picks up on all the comments that I think were made at the scrutiny panel. One thing that sort of really comes to me though is it's saying it's a simple thing to change. It doesn't need great infrastructure. The infrastructure exists already, the roads are there. It's not like rail, for example, where you have to invest millions and possibly billions of pounds to improve the infrastructure. The infrastructure is there. We need to work better, and I can assure anyone listening to this that we will be working very closely with Essex County Council on this strategy and doing everything that we can to make the bus services as good as it can possibly be in the Colchester Borough.
Thank you. Yeah, I think Councillor Ellis made a good point about, I think one of the challenges is people who used to use public transport have got out of the habit and they're no longer using it, and actually getting people back to getting the bus use back to where it was 15 months ago actually is going to be quite a big challenge because people have got out of the habit of using them. So, Councillor Crowe.
Just one last point. Just to pick up on the first recommendation, the use the bus challenge. We as a council have a responsibility both from our comms and on a micro level as councillors to be promoting bus use as much as we possibly can. And there's talk of an app that's going to unify the information pertaining to all the bus routes coming, which is absolutely vital to get people like me to stop being scared of using the bus because I'm scared of where I might end up and not being able to get back. And when that app comes along again, that's something that we need to be promoting as hard as we can as a means of taking that fear out of using the bus and some of the stigma as well. There is, for some people, there is a stigma in using the bus. We need to remove that and get people seeing it as the way they need to be getting about town and getting about the borough. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the many apps just to find out where the next bus is one of my own personal bugbears, so I would certainly endorse that. Do we have any more speakers? No, I don't think we are. So, as I understand it, the proposal on the table is to accept the recommendations, which are on page 59 of your document pack, if you need to find them in a hurry, plus the extra one that Councillor Crowe outlined. So if that's what we wish to do, are we in agreement on it? Agreed, we are agreed. Okay. And I think if it's okay, everybody, we'll push on and do the last item, which is item 10, which is appointments to external organisations and council groups and abolition of the revolving investment fund committee. It's as in the agenda pack, but with two slight changes. And that is the change that Councillor G. Oxford replaces Councillor B. Oxford on the member development panel or board, and Councillor B. Oxford is our rep on the police and crime panel. So that is the proposal. Other than that, they are as in the agenda pack. I don't think I really have much to add to it other than what's written. Does anybody wish to speak on it? No, are we in agreement on it then? We are, agreed. That has passed. Item 11, I'm not aware that we have any confidential items, therefore we do not need to do that. And all that remains for me is to say thank you very much for your attendance, thank you for your contributions, thank you to other councillors and any members of the public here, and of course to officers. Good night and see you all soon.